Introducing our second guest on the PlasmaCast, MadMike will eat you.
LD15? Or do we set?
Has 2, has 3.
He's dead. Here, he's dead. 2 again. Sweet. Here, take him. Got it. What's that? La cuenta de estos también right now. Thanks, Mr. Needles. So right now, look up. Look him up, look him up.
One shot, dude. Red needles. Don't let me do it, dude. Oh my god.
Before we get to that, Mike, please tell the audience your full name, full gamer tag, and what region do you rep? Where are you from?
Oh, okay, fair enough. So Michael Anthony, my name, but I don't use the full government name. That's mostly just for like privacy reasons. But I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, at least, big city down south. And yeah, my gamer tag name is MadMike Leachy, and I've had the same gamer tag for like 20 years. So like everybody rolled.
Yeah, although there are some new guys. There are a lot of like young blood, just players in their 20s. To me, anyone that's in their 20s is like fresh blood. I'm like, oh wow, you didn't play this game. You must have got this game a little bit later. But that's awesome. Charlotte,
I have seen the rise of that. That's for sure. Yeah.
We get fresh new blood in the older games, and it's great to see. Are you guys? Side note: are you guys still having that that second Charlotte land, that second NC land? I know you guys had one before level 50 a couple months ago.
Yeah, we did. So I don't remember the exact date that we did it, but it might have been September, October was the first one, and it was mostly just like the guys who are around North Carolina. There's a good handful of players, specifically Halo players, that are in the Carolinas. So we were trying to make sure that we can have people like kind of come through and represent. And I think because it was so successful in terms of just like turnout, we had a good time. We're gonna run it back. So that's our plan. Like in probably a couple of months, we got to really narrow down a location because we don't have anybody here that's like, we don't have a big enough place to host everybody. And being Charlotte, you're not necessarily limited on options, but to get a big house out here, it's very expensive. But if you get a rental, because Charlotte has a lake, like you might not know much about Charlotte just in general. I love this city. We have NASCAR here, pretty big deal. We have NFL, NBA, MLS teams. It's a pretty known city, but because of this, people come here for like tourist destinations. So there's a huge man-made lake nearby, and picture something on like the coast, right, where you can rent a beach house or a townhome for like a week. That's kind of what Charlotte has at the lake. So we were looking at it, we're like, dude, let's just rent one of these places, have everybody chip in like a couple $100, and we'll be able to have a place for everybody to stay, but also there's enough people that live locally or local, like our driving distance, right, that can bring stuff to contribute to a proper land setup. Like the TVs are the biggest thing we had to search for, and I think we have that, and it's yeah, we're excited. So that's basically the plan for us going forward.
I can imagine getting a venue is difficult, and an Airbnb for a weekend would be ideal, especially just because you get a normal venue and those things close, and Halo players or gamers in general, we kind of want to stay up a little bit later. A lake land sounds like it would be really lit. That sounds like it would be a great time.
That's basically the goal. It's kind of like a bros trip in a way, because it's like all the guys are together, and played Halo together for freaking years, so let's just take an extended weekend and all hang out and just play video games. Just be boys, watch some TV or whatever, just play games, grind it out. But like you're saying, it's really difficult to find a venue that will stay open for the hours that most people play games for. Like our group of friends and the group of Halo players that we play with, the vast majority of them are either like West Coast or they have 9 to 5s or longer. So their hours of gaming is actually pretty like obscure, I think.
I can't wait to see it happen. I know it'll be streamed, and even if there's no like tournament or like organized bracket or whatever, I'm sure we'll have some sweaty games. Back to you though, I wanted to ask, when did you start playing Halo, and what about competing, entering tournaments? Was that around the same time? Was that a separate like time period? Can you just tell me a little bit about how and why you started playing Halo in the first place?
Yeah, so first time I played Halo was honestly when I was a kid. It was with some friends that I knew. I kind of grew up poor, so the only friend that we really had that had the money also had an Xbox. So I played Halo 1 with them, and I didn't get Halo 2 or the original Xbox until the game came out. And that was when it was like we could afford the Xbox, and then we could afford online play or whatever. So it's kind of interesting. I got the Xbox, and then I got Halo 2, and I started playing immediately. And I was super into the story, and that's all I really cared about was the story of Halo and just the campaign in general. It wasn't until Gunshot and Matt and I, we went to elementary school together. In middle school.
Okay.
Yeah. And I told him I was playing Halo, and he was like, he's big into a lot of games. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of them. He was huge into Magic the Gathering. But Halo, he heard me talking about how Halo 2 came out, and I was loving it, right? So he just straight up told me, he's like, you need to go home, you need to talk to your parents, you need to get Xbox Live, you need to add me so we can play together. So it took us forever. I don't think we got Xbox Live until a month after it came out. I couldn't figure out how to get it to work. I was using the phone line, not the Ethernet cables, to connect everything. Like, couldn't figure it out. This is before we can like Google things to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So it literally took us a month. We finally get it. Took some convincing from the parents of like, hey, it's okay to put your credit card on the internet. It's gonna be okay. It's Microsoft, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
because you
I
had to
finally get
enter
it.
that into the Xbox. You had to pay for Xbox Live, and your parents had to pay for internet to.
Yep.
Halo turned a lot of us into like little IT professionals with the basic networking that you had to know to get online.
1000% what happened. So I got the game. I'm playing it. I'm getting my butt kicked. I wasn't good at all. So what I ended up getting into though was like the big team battle stuff that everybody was doing. Like the clan battles was really fun. Mostly glitches. I didn't play MLG settings really for Halo 2. Honestly, like I don't think I really ever got into it during its prime. I was watching people play. I played the free-for-alls, but I didn't play like comp pickup fours ever. I didn't get into competitive Halo until Halo 3. I'm much better at Halo 3 than I am Halo 2, I think.
Same. I didn't get into Halo until the competitive until H3, like game battles and going to locals. And I was watching more competitive Halo 2. I just didn't have the friends or the connections or really just the person that kind of brings you into the scene. Like, hey, you can we'll play with you can play with us. We'll run some games. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
I mean that was basically the whole setup that I did. So Halo 3 was kind of my moment where I think mostly just seeing Matt go to the MLG tournaments, and I met him there because I didn't always live in Charlotte. I had moved at one point, but we still kept in contact through like Xbox Live. And they had a couple of MLG Raleighs, which is where I was living at the time, also MLG Charlotte. So I would go to those and I would hang out with Matt. It'd be like a good time to see my boy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think seeing how good he became playing it competitively inspired me to actually like, okay, maybe I should try to like get better at video games and break it down and try to take it more seriously. That was my route to more comp stuff. I think for a while there, it was like I was always in touch with the comp scene, but I was more interested in glitching. So a lot of people played Halo, like they were on Halo 2 or Halo 3 forum or the Halo forum. I was on like High Impact Halo, which was a glitch forum where people were glitching in campaign, finding super bounces. Like my original YouTube account came out like I think I made it like 2004 or 5. Really early, and I made a super bounce video finding something on Tombstone for Halo 2. It was like that was more my scene than top play was.
I remember High Impact Halo. I remember browsing those forums quite a bit.
Oh yeah, dude, I was on there all the time.
Okay. That's really cool. So I feel like I just had a similar like upbringing in the game. Like I played Halo a little bit, like buddies in school. Like, I had a friend in school. His tag was XXX Snake. He was really good. He told me about tournaments in our area. We were based in New York City, so they used to have Meadowlands every year. We went to ended up going to a couple of those after like convincing our parents or aunts or uncles or someone to like give us a ride, and then begging, like asking also for the money so we can register. It was a whole thing. You're like, oh wait, this costs money? Oh man. But you're also you're that age and you realize everything costs money. You're like, oh man, I guess I better get a job or something if I want to keep doing this. Okay, so you said you're like Raleigh is where you were based out of, or some of the events that you went to initially for MLG. If I were absolutely blitzed in your city, like it's like 2, 3 a.m., I am hammered, where would we go for grub? Where would the go-to spot be?
2 or 3 in the morning.
Like we're just sauced. Just where do people go for the good grub?
There's 3 locations. One of them kind of fell off in the last year, so I wouldn't take you there. The first one, if you're in the Carolinas or in the South and you've heard of it, there's this place called Cookout.
Cookout, okay.
And Cookout is a fast food joint, typically open till about like 3:30 in the morning. The idea is it's like a window kind of only place. There's no real seating inside. You buy really cheap fried food like burgers, hot dogs. You can get quesadillas. You can get chicken tenders, fries, of course. Milkshakes are a huge thing, but their whole thing is like $5 or $6, and you can get 2 meals out of it, like grown man meals, like a lot of food.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like it's one of those things like you're smashed, you need to get sober, or you need to make sure you feel okay the next day. You go to Cookout to make sure you eat something, right? So that's one of the big ones. The other one is Midnight Diner, and just picture a more classy establishment to Waffle House. Basically.
Like a Denny's?
Yeah, basically, but not Denny's.
But not.
Yeah, it's a location like in downtown or uptown, which we call it here because it's on a hill, in Charlotte.
Okay.
And the last one's Red Eye Diner, which is the same thing, basically a breakfast joint. It's all about the fatty foods and the oils and the grease, man. Got to soak up the alcohol.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so Cookout, Red Eye Diner, and what was the second one?
Midnight Diner.
Midnight Diner. Okay, I fucks with a really good diner, so I'll have to keep that in mind next time I'm in that area. Sometimes you'll catch me through the Carolinas if I'm driving up and down I-95. I'd be there sometimes.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah, they have basically the same thing in if you're in Raleigh, probably Cookout is the way to go.
Okay. Facts. I think I may have seen them on TikTok or IG. I know that one's really popular. I've heard that name before. Next question. What pro gaming related accomplishments are you most proud of? Also, if you've done stuff in real life too, like maybe any like sports wins, feel free to share that as well. What kind of accomplishments are you most proud of?
Oh, in terms of gaming? So probably switching from player to coaching. I think because the challenge of being a coach is an intriguing one in my opinion. Just the ability or the way you have to juggle personalities and make sure everybody gets along and make sure everybody understands each other in a way. It's like you're negotiating on behalf of other people in a way. But you're also trying to make sure they're organized as well. It's like, here's a good example. I can't teach certain players how to snipe or certain players how to throw a grenade. Like you said you interviewed Khan. Khan is one of the best people I know when it comes to like freaking geometry. This man finds you on the map with like heat-seeking grenades. It's insanity.
Yeah, we talked about it. They're literally, we call them, Kong nades. Like, he throws a nade, and you run away, and you die.
Yes,
because he knows
exactly.
where you're running to.
I've watched his POVs. I don't understand how he does it. So I can't be the person that's watching over his shoulder, right, and telling him how to do his game, right? But I can help him understand or to work with his teammates with how they play their game. You know, it's like Mourinho, Jose Mourinho, and football or soccer, whichever one you want to call it. He's not going to tell Cristiano Ronaldo how to take a free kick, but he's going to tell Cristiano Ronaldo when to pass, like when to know to do the move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're going to do it regardless, but you got to be able to work together as a team, and I find that one of the better accomplishments. Like winning LV, like level 50 was cool. I think when I was coaching for HCS Infinite matches, that was pretty intense too. And just using that was like a different experience than actually playing the game. I thought it was nice.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the HCS Infinite coaching? I wasn't aware of that. I'd love to hear more about coaching in other Halo games.
Yeah, so basically I coached at HCS Infinite Orlando, also at Charlotte, and pretty much it was like, unfortunately we were only a win. Well, we were in the winners back and made it to the 5th round in Orlando, and we were like 2 wins away from making it into the pro bracket, and unfortunately that didn't happen. And there are moments within that, when that happened, that I could have made changes. So I should have called a timeout. I should have got everybody's headspace together working as a team. I didn't do that at the time, and I take partial responsibility. There were a couple of things that messed up within the game, where it was like one of our players didn't pop the OS because he was too engaged within the game that he was blinded by the fact that he picked up Overshield. Because in Halo Infinite, you have to activate it, right?
Yeah.
You don't just pick it up and it works, like most Halos, or the original trilogy. So that was one of the ones that kind of lurked on me. And I've apologized to him, and he was like, no, it was my fault. It's like, yeah, but I mean, I'm watching over your shoulder, and I should be helping you, you know? So that was one of the ones that, like, kind of was annoying. But in terms of coaching, I mean, I've coached Halo 4, 5, Infinite, and 2. I'm not really strangers to that. I've coached other people in trying to get better, and really all it comes down to is just reverse engineering the game and trying to find out different... It's like the game is a puzzle, right? It's a puzzle that you don't know that it needs to be solved sometimes. Think about like speed running. You know, some people will just do whatever it takes to break the game so they can get the shortest amount of time to beat the game, right? That's what most speedrunning is. That's kind of what comp is. Like, there are rules, of course. There are, like, certain jumps you can't make in this game. But it doesn't mean that you don't try it, you know? You got to be able to understand, like, when certain things happen. Like, a good example of this, a very simple example, is in Halo 2. This is something Gunshot taught me, actually. If you need grenades, the grenades spawn every 30 seconds, every single map. And if you break it down to that kind of science of which grenades spawn at a certain time or which guns spawn at a certain time, you can kind of like create an internal clock when you know when everything's happening on the map to gain like a slight advantage. But the cool thing about this game is if you're all standing on top of where the grenades spawn, and when they do spawn, whoever's standing on top of the grenades will gain those grenades. So for example, if you and I were standing on top of plasma grenades that I just like took away, right? You don't have any plasma grenades. And when it does spawn and we're on top of the spawn, we both get 3 apiece.
What? So you could... Okay, hold... What? I did not know this. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So I have to interject. So we do the same. We do something in CE similarly. We call it double stacking with like the overshield
Yes.
or camo. I did not
Exactly.
know that was a thing in Halo 2. Holy fuck.
Yeah. Come stand here. You'll get it right now. Oh, I just picked it up. Hold on. So I got it at what is that? 20.
Like 05. And
Yeah, 05.
the
So if we
internal,
come back at 35,
we'll
it'll
test it out. Also, the internal timer thing is also really applicable to CE because I feel like the more I played split screen, the more I played CE, the more I became aware of just, oh, it's been about 50 to 55
Yes.
seconds. Camo over shield's going to be up.
Exactly.
Oh, it's been about 2 minutes. Rockets are going to
Yeah.
come up. And then with
All right, so
we fucked it up.
let's do this. Yeah. Just come over here, stand. Stand right here while you're talking.
Okay.
And I threw all my grenades out. I'm at 0.
I'm at 0 too.
So yeah. So stand like right next to me. You got to get really close. Just make sure you don't get 1 and I get like 2 or something.
Got it.
But we're gonna get more than 3.
We're gonna get 6. We can at most get up to 6.
Yes.
Wow. In CE as well, it's in theory you can triple or quadruple stack those power ups if you can
Yeah, I
get.
got 3.
Me too. Wow.
Yeah. See.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's one thing you can. So CE, here's the thing about Halo that a lot of people don't realize. CE was a game that was rushed and it was fundamentally broken. You can say what it is right now, but there's glitches in the game that were not intended. That's a broken game. They made it in 9 months. It was originally a port from for Apple Mac,
Yeah.
whatever Apple PC it was, right? They tried to launch it and get it prepared for PC. It didn't really work. So they had to start from scratch, and they did it in 9 months. That's what the Xbox version is. That's why it's partially broken. They did the same thing with Halo 2. Halo 2 though was built in 18 months, and it launched with the whole heckload of broken glitches, right? And then Halo 3, interesting enough, it was 36 months. You see how it doubles? 9, 18, 36. So there are elements of the game where they were using the same engine, the Blam engine, the whole way through. So you'll see a lot of common traits in each one of the games that always repeat. One of the things that's very interesting about Halo 2, and this goes into the coaching stuff, is dissecting the game to understand the game, right? There are different spawn times based on the original map gun placements. So what I mean by that is the weapon spawn time for the battle rifle at BR3 up in the top, right, is a different spawn time than the battle rifle that would be, I don't know, I think there's another battle rifle in library.
No,
Or is that Carbine?
it's top blue.
Yeah, top blue. Yeah, those two have different spawn times. And if you're playing MOG settings, the shotgun that's in the green room, if you pick that up, it will not spawn again. Nobody else can pick it up. But if you pick up the one top mid, then your shotgun will it will keep respawning.
I do know why that is. It's because the one in the green room is considered a power weapon. The one on top
Yes.
is not considered a power weapon.
Yeah, that's correct. And a lot of people don't know that though.
Either Kazats or Overswarm taught me that one.
Yeah, that's on a lot of maps.
I didn't know the BR though. That's tripping me out. There's no way.
There's
That's
a 30-second respawn time for the battle rifle on Beaver Creek, and then in the base it's 2 minutes. So there's 2 battle rifles. There's one in mag, and then there's one where the shotgun is. Right? I think that's it. I might have it backwards. It's been a while since I've touched this game, to be honest. After we won, I took a break. Started playing Marvel Rivals.
Same, bro. I haven't played I haven't played a Serious 4 series besides maybe one cart draft tourney. I did pretty well in, but besides that, I just can't touch it. It's just there was so much grinding, so much coffee, so much staying up until 4 or 5 in the morning. I definitely needed a break from it. That's awesome that you let us know some knowledge. That's one of my later questions was going to be, do you have any Halo secrets, anything that nobody else knows? Khan held his secrets. He refused to tell the pod. But I appreciate you letting us down on some knowledge. And I'd like to think that there's still even more stuff that the players
so
at the
much.
top know. No one can know everything. But when you're at the top, you're there for a reason. You probably know a lot and how to make it very applicable. Are you gonna spawn? Are you gonna Z-axis spawn me or something?
I
Spawn
tried
influence?
to. Yeah, I was gonna try to spawn lock you in front of me in green while you're talking.
There's some players that are really good at that. Like I've seen some really good montage clips or just clips on social media. People doing some disgusting 1v1 spawn traps to people. Let's
Oh,
move. Let's move on though. I just want to keep it moving.
of course.
What's your most cherished tournament bracket memory, either online or on LAN?
Oh,
It could be as a player or as a coach.
definitely beating some people in Halo Infinite that were talking massive amounts of crap about me, and so I teamed with a guy who's a pretty big streamer for Halo 5, and relatively with Halo Infinite, and he was getting a whole lot of people talking trash about him because his content wasn't competitive content. You know how like live streamers are, where they're for Halo live streaming, right? They're either like highly competitive, they don't interact with their chat at all, or the other group is playing Big Team Battle or Warzone or something very casual, and they're just having a good time.
It's
and
one of the two camps,
talking
or
with
you
chat.
speed run campaign. That's it. You have three rows to choose from. Who's the player? Just curious to know. See if I know
It was
him.
Crazy Miller. Crazy Miller.
Oh,
was
I know
the-
Crazy Miller. I remember him. I remember he was on a sponsored squad for a while.
Yeah. So, I was on that squad. I'm pretty sure for Halo Infinite. So the point is like we had a really good squad, and a lot of people are talking trash because they only knew him for being like the content creator, and there were a couple other people that were on the team, but they weren't really all that known. So the amount of like shit talking that was coming at us, and then when we finally beat some of these guys online, and then beat them on LAN, that was so much fun. Especially when they were talking massive amounts of shit. Like they were winning the first game, we're like nah, and we all focused up and took the win. It was nice. I think those are like the moments where I have the most fun is when people start talking trash, and you don't say anything. You just start smoking them, and then after it's like, oh, where was that chirping earlier? You know?
Yeah, it's definitely a feel good moment. Was this at HCS Raleigh or Orlando?
I believe it was it was Raleigh. Yeah,
And-
HCS
okay.
Raleigh. So it was the opening event. That was when everybody
The
was
kickoff
like, really
major.
high on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's no footage of this two-team interaction, is there?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's some. I believe some. Yeah, Crazy Miller's community was live streaming it either to YouTube or Twitch, but I know the footage exists of him in particular standing up and screaming at and cursing everybody out.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty funny.
That passion is like the best thing about Halo. Like when people are like, "Why do you guys compete?" You just show a clip of someone yelling at someone else on LAN. It's like it's this. It's about this. It's literally just this.
Yeah.
It's like you cannot do this online. You can't get you also can't really get this experience in many other games. It's just not as personal. It's not as I don't know, to me, it's not as skillful. Like you can really just turn and now play someone in Halo, stand up, let them know about it, sit back down, kill their teammate, get back up, chirp. It's such a unique type of dance.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I think that's fair.
okay. And kind of speaking about skill, I would like to know, what do you consider to be the most skillful form or variant of Halo? Like, which Halo do you think is kind of the more skillful one or ones? And in those games, do you consider 2s, 4s, or like free-for-alls and ones to be kind of like the pinnacle and peak of competitive expression and skill?
Oh, jeez. Well, this one's an impossible question to answer. Well, it's okay. So I've done a lot of debate with some buddies of mine who I play all the Halos. I'm one of the few people that plays pretty much every single Halo and I'm in multiple like rec leagues and stuff like that. I play Halo 2, 3. I don't play Halo C as much because you guys are freaking cracked. And I'm gonna get smoked. That's the truth of the matter. I can keep up with pretty much anybody else though, and all the other Halos. Believe it or not, I have a list that I wrote
Read it.
a while ago.
Read the list,
And
find it.
I'm gonna go find it right now. Okay, so I have a breakdown list. And this is going to answer your question because I remember having this with my buddies. Alright, so I broke it down to best campaign, best team game, best individual skill, and best game overall.
Let's go.
Okay,
You knew someone would ask you this one day. You knew.
I knew. It's honestly so I can stay consistent. I added Halo Infinite for this one. So for the best team game, okay?
Okay.
In terms of like fun, entertainment, not necessarily being competitive. Keep that part in mind. But I believe that the best team game is actually Halo 4. And the reason for that is big team battle is some of the most fun you can play in a shooter for Halo 4. Halo 5, Warzone is phenomenal, but there's too much crap going on. Halo 4 is very simplistic. It's classic Halo. It's arcade Halo. I think it's for people that don't want to take things seriously, and that's why I think it's a good team game. Now, I think Halo 3 is the better team game in terms of competitive play. You gotta have that up there. Then it's Halo 2. Then here's the one why I said it's not about competitive. Halo 3 ODST is before Halo CE in my opinion. So it goes so it goes Halo 4, 3. I have it backwards. I'm reading the wrong list. I was looking at campaign. Halo 4 is the best team game. Halo 3 is second. Halo 5 is third. And Halo Infinite is fourth.
Okay.
Halo 2 is actually my fifth best team game. So I don't know what that says about me, but I'll give you the most individual skill required, which is going to throw you through a loop, and I'm sure people will have opinions about. Most individual skill required is Halo 2, in my opinion. In terms of, it's the perfect balance between needing team skill and like communication, map knowledge, all these types of things, but you also need to work as a team. So it's like you need to be individually skilled out of your mind, but you also need to be an individually skilled person on a good team. After that is your game, I believe, is Halo CE. You guys are just nutters. You guys are so freaking good at that game. There's so many nuances with it. The spawn system is insane. It's very quick, like fast pace, and it's very punishing. Like if you lose the first fight, you might get goosed, and that's just crazy to me. Then you got Halo 5 is up there, and then Halo 3. I think Halo 3 is more of a team game than it is an individual skill game.
I definitely agree with a lot of it. I agree with the Halo 4 sentiment. I've heard a lot of people echo that. They're like, no, like the big team in Halo 4, like they're like, you don't understand. That shit is like crack. That shit is fun as fuck. Like they got good maps, good game modes. And I'm not gonna lie. I like the, was it Dominion? I like Dominion in Halo 4. I like squad battle. I like 6v6 and upwards. It could just be very difficult to. You know, if you think getting 4v4 lobbies evenly matched are hard, imagine trying to get 8v8 evenly matched lobbies. It's just a little more difficult without ranked offerings. But we have that now. We have ranked big team on both Insignia, and we have ranked squad battle in Halo Infinite. And the Halo, with the question of like, oh, which takes more skill, I feel like my opinion changes. I do definitely agree 1000%. Like Halo 2, you have to be cracked individually. You have to be nasty on a team. And I'm sorry to all my Halo 1 brothers, but that shit is just not the case for Halo 2. Like the 4v4 is not the same. We don't even do 4v4s now. We do 3v3s. The Halo 1 Grand Championship was a 3v3 affair, and it's just not the same kind of teamwork. And of course, those guys will probably have their different opinions, and they'll have good arguments to back it up and say why they think maybe 3v3 Halo 1's the best or the most skillful. But like, Halo 1 players are not playing objective, like they're not playing oddball, they're not playing flag, they're not playing King. We don't have King of the Hill, but they're not doing the objective stuff. They're not playing bomb. It's mostly 2v2 Slayer. And I think if you take someone that is very, very good, that's a very good split screen Halo 1 player that's nasty with the pistol and can watch both screens at once, I think if you put that person in a 4v4 lobby in Halo 2 with us, and you expect them to do well, you know what's going to happen? They're going to get 3 to 6 kills. That's what happens, and then they just leave because that is very, very difficult. Being able to play 4v4 with objective-based game types, like you really have to, it's really, really up there. It's just about as tough as the CE 2v2 and 3v3 stuff is for me. In my opinion, has waned. Like, yeah, I could be considered a Halo 1 person now, but I definitely still love and play probably more H2. I just don't stream it as often. I'm just interested to hear what people say and why.
Yeah, I think the Halo CE, I want to say it takes more skill, but the problem with the game is if you add more than 4 people to the maps, the maps break. And at that point, it just becomes more RNG. Whereas Halo 2, you're just as cracked and just as much map knowledge, but you have to work together as a team. And you need to make sure that you're doing the right thing always. Like, if you really mess up, you can get destroyed by a good team. And that's really all it takes sometimes, you know? And I think that ties into, like, the game types. It's just more game types where you get punished. You add a couple more variables where you have to keep track of stuff like that, you're gonna have a rough time.
Like, I know for a fact that I feel like just a good example, like, not to talk shit about CE players, but like, unless you've played a lot of bomb on this map, like, you're gonna get like sneaky planted on. Like, it's just gonna happen. It's something that has to happen to you like a few times before you're like, oh my god, I can never take my eyes off of that icon. Nothing else actually matters on this map and this particular game type except that stupid little bomb icon, and all 4 of us have to be watching it all the whole time. And that's just not something that you have in CE2s. Next question. Mike, when considering the goats of the game, like, let's say, like, HCS top 25 people, what do you value most? Just considering the greatest Halo competitors of all time. Do you value average placing? Is it career earnings? Is it the impact they had on the scene? The type of events that they won? The amount of different Halo games they were considered professionals in? There was a lot of talk before Infinite came out about the top 25. Like, some people should have been on there, some people should have been off there. Now we've had 3 years of Infinite, and I think every one of us would agree that that list has to change. That there are people that have earned spots on that list that were not on that list, and some people that have proven that they deserve to be on there, and then other people that I'm good with kind of just forgetting about. Like, I don't know why Saiyan has to be on the top 25. I'm sorry, like, I just don't see it. What do you consider? Like, what do you look for in your personal when you make your top 10 list? Like, what do you value?
It depends on what the top 10 list is about. So, you brought up the HCS top 25 list. They build it as the best Halo players of all time. And when you do that, you have to look at multiple Halos. You have to look at multiple placings. So, Saiyan was arguably the most disgusting Halo 1 player. He was ridiculously good. Yes, the Ogres were nasty too. He won everything in Halo CE and Halo 2. You got to keep him on the list. The only reason why he wasn't playing Halo 3 is because WoW came out and he was addicted. Like, he didn't, like, he left on his own accord, you know what I mean?
True, yeah.
It's not like he left on his own, but there are other people on that list that should have definitely, in my opinion, not be on it. Like, Shotzi is a good example of this. He is a COD player, ultimately. He was good at, like, two or three of the games, really. But, like, yeah, you can be a gunner, you know what I mean? But if you're an all-time best Halo player, we've had plenty of gunners, dude. Plenty of them, but people don't remember them. And
yeah, most people don't remember who Killer N is, but he had a great season or so in CE. Same with Zyos, had a great year or two, winning a bunch of like high-profile 1v1 tournaments. But
exactly
a 12 to 24 month span of dominance, I don't think.
Being good.
Yeah, puts you in that list. It was weird to me how they had Shotzi in that list. For winning, being good at Halo 5, but not to have Formal on that list. And now today, it's like the list doesn't matter because it doesn't have Formal on it. It's like, what? Like, it's invalid because Matthew Piper's not on it.
Yeah. Now, I think Formal's really good. He's a very intelligent player, but I also don't think he's the GOAT that everybody makes him out to be. They're now starting to call him the best ever controller player. And it's like, no, that I hate to break it to you, but that is sniped down, and it's always been sniped down.
That's arguable. I don't know. Those are strong arguments, and yeah, I mean, for a while people were saying it was Ogre 2, like Gandhi and people were saying for years it was Ogre 2. That I don't know,
Like
formal.
controller player?
Yeah, like controller or console, but maybe not controller player, but before the discussion was like a console esport GOAT, and it was like Walshy Ogre 2. But now we've had
Oh yeah,
15
Ogre
years
1 needs to
of
be on that list.
we
by
have
the way.
yeah, well,
He
the
should
top
be way
10,
higher up.
I think so. But
Top
you know,
5.
it's about
in
what
my
you
opinion.
value. Some people do not value or even consider the Halo 1 and Halo 2 stuff. They think everything before 2008 is sus and isn't real. They don't even watch the tournaments or the broadcast because it's all pixelated. It's all potato quality for them. They don't even know what's going on when they watch like Carbon versus Final Boss in 07. They don't see what we see.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of nostalgia that's going on with people still watching the old games, for sure. That is true, but there is an element of like Halo 2, the game, since level 50 has evolved rapidly, and a lot of people don't want to admit that. They think, oh, it's the same game, it's been out for like 20 plus years, nothing's changed. Just like, I know things about this game that the players back then had no idea of. And it's just like, it's an evolution of a game, and it's always been that way. Like, the metas are constantly changing about what works, what doesn't. Like, one of the reasons why our game was so good is the level and pace at which we tried to play. Whereas most communities, especially old school Halo 2 communities, they play more slow because the game was slower back then. And if you're only watching the game back then, you know the game to be slow. Which is funny because it's like, now anybody that watches HCS, all they care about is how fast it is. Like, all the mobility you can do, the grappling, the repulse, and all these different features. It's like, you can still play Halo 3 very, very fast. You can play Halo 2 very fast. Halo CE is incredibly fast. The spawn time is not nearly enough, in my opinion, but it's just a different game, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the level of play of the VODs from 04 to 07 are just not what Halo 1 and Halo 2 players are doing today. And I understand that some of those guys they won't have their beliefs challenged, like they won't really they may not like budge on the opinion, but like if you just pay attention to other what people are referring to now as like retro esports, it's like, dude, just look at Melee, look at Marvel, look at
That's a complete
Call of Duty 4 Pro, yeah, fighting games. I play a lot of fighting games. But the games have been out for as long as like Halo 1 and Halo 2 with people that travel, support these scenes, compete. And in all these games, at least like the 4 that I follow, you have seen the old guard lose to the new guard, like on LAN, in tournament, in big events, on stream, and the torch wasn't passed. The torch had to get ripped away from these people that were multiple Evo champions, that are multiple Genesis or MLG national champions. But without a doubt, those torches and those titles do get ripped away, just in terms of who the best is and how high we can push the meta. Like the things that we do today, like the things that like Stormy and even other like creators do today, was like not fathomable. Like I remember I was there. We didn't think it could be deeper than it was, and then people just kept playing. They kept grinding. They kept learning silly little things like, oh, did you know if we both stand on these plasmas, we'll actually
exactly.
all get plasmas. And which could really help, because if you want to clear out a base, you really just kind of chuck some nades. Halo 2 is the last game to give us 8 grenades, and you can really just take over a base, take control with good grenades. So you and a buddy, like, you are just so powerful in this game. Like, yeah, like you're fast, you're slick, but like you really do have just a lot of offensive capability in Halo 2 specifically. One more question about just this kind of topic about like old and new players, like at the top. Do you think the Ogres would lose today in Classic Halo? Like if there was another level 50 event, let's say they gave it another 3-month announcement, and those guys had whatever kind of practice they were able to get, whether it was here in Australia or whatever, do you think that they would win in Halo 1, Halo 2? Do you think they would pretty much keep their undefeated streak and record alive?
No. 3 months, you said? Here's the key.
Like what Final Instinct had? The same kind of just warning or announcement time. Just about 3 or 4 months, let's say.
No, they would need more time. I don't like they can do it. Don't get me wrong. They definitely like these guys. They won champions. Like they're really really good, but it's not like you have to keep practicing the game and you have to keep up with the meta and you have to understand how certain people play. And if you're not doing that, if you only have 3 or 4 months of just trying to get back up to speed and learning the meta, then you're not gonna, you just don't have enough time with people that have been playing nonstop, you know? Like there was something to do with like the Halo 2 stuff where we played against Final Instinct, where there was a narrative that's like, oh, these guys have never gotten off the game. It's like, I think like Stormy, his work schedule, he only got a chance to play for like 1 full week really, every month, like once a month. Like Strong Side was playing non-stop for basically 3 months.
Yeah, that was so funny to me. They really try to push that narrative hard that you guys, specifically LVT or Xanda, had never put the game down, and you guys literally grinded for 20 years. I was like, wow, that's so disrespectful. I know a lot of these guys personally, and that's not the case. They're just regular dudes with regular jobs, and we all play a bunch of different Halos. Like I would clap their cheeks in Halo 1, but they didn't bother to register because they knew better. And it's just really silly hearing hearing that narrative being pushed when that's just not the case. And yes, Strong Side had the most practice, had the most game time out of anyone. He was playing, I mean, to his credit, it was awesome seeing all those lobbies we had active. But those guys really went on stage or on the mic and were like, yeah, we only practiced for a week as a team. It's like, yo, I saw you motherfuckers in the real ones. I saw you in the VC for weeks, for months putting in work. But I didn't see you guys scrimming a lot. Khan told me that you guys would scrim teams and then they would just disband, so people just stopped scrimming you guys. So that's that's what we really should be talking about. Like the team that won actually is the team that didn't have practice, not the other way around.
Correct. That's basically what was going on. It's like Gunshot and I, before the announcement actually came out, we were doing nothing but playing the finals. We were essentially trying to become like the final streamers and content creators. That's what we were doing for basically since the game came out until it was announced. And that was like 6 months of playing mouse and keyboard. Then Havoc hadn't played anything like at all. All he was paying attention to was like NFL sports, hanging out with his wife, his personal life stuff. He wasn't really gaming Halo 2 at all. There was an entire like 2 years where he didn't touch Halo 2. It was crazy. And then Stormy, his work schedule wouldn't permit it. Khan was playing every now and then, but it was like Khan has a life, dude. He wasn't really playing much, so it was really difficult for us to play as a team because of everybody's conflicting schedules. So most of the time that we were practicing, I was recording all 4 POVs into one window, so everybody can watch it all synced up with their voice comms, not like game audio. They were all recording their games in their individual POVs in case there was any specific thing that we had to do so that we can see each other. And then we would get together, sit down, watch the footage together, and just break it down. So it was like Stormy would be in for a week and we'd play as much as we possibly could against anybody as a team of 4, right? Mm-hmm. I would record everything, I'd put it to a server, and then we'd watch it when we could and make notes and discuss that way. But it was like, I have a full-time job. I'm pretty sure Khan does. Stormy's always gone. Stormy was like we had people sub in for him and he would join the calls and I would show him the POVs.
Damn,
so he'd be
that's
watching.
Dedication. Wow.
Yeah. So it was like, we weren't really playing. And I don't think that's what people understand or not. It's like, when it comes to video games, you don't really exercise as much. Like you got to be constantly thinking about the game 24/7. You got to understand the game for what it is, like a puzzle. And if you're not doing that, or you're not taking it serious, then you're gonna fall behind. And that's why I'm saying like you need more than 3 or 4 months for the old guys to come back and be good again. And it's not like saying they're washed. It's just they haven't played the game. Like you got to be playing the game a lot. But you also got to be like connected with the game. Play it a lot and understand it fully is pretty much the only way to come back. But 3 or 4 months to get back on a game that you hadn't played in like 5 years plus. It's just not enough time. The ogres don't care about Halo anymore. Ogre 2's more into memeing everybody for still playing the old games than he is about actually playing it. And that's fine. He has his own life. He's pretty successful and he's crushing it with the family and stuff.
Yeah, I
And Ogre
know
1
that
is
they got
kinda over too, you know.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Like these guys were going to so many tournaments per month, like more events than the modern pros could probably fathom. Like these dudes were going or traveling, either driving or flying to events to make money, and they were basically expected to get first every single time, every single weekend. Before the era of social media, and I mean, thankfully they still have awards. Like I think they have like lifetime achievement esports awards. I remember Ogre 2 was on like a Florida COD team, like the GM for it. I remember also Ogre 1 got signed, maybe just briefly to Native Gaming. Like these dudes were still around a little bit, but yeah, I know all I see from Ogre is just like mouse and keyboard Halo Infinite clips and bragging about being 40 years old and still doing work, which is dope. You know, he's my GOAT. He's my greatest of all time. So,
Yeah,
but it would be cool to see them, at least some of those people, acknowledge that modern Halo 1 and Halo 2 players exist. Next question. So you talked a little bit about coaching, and I know you talked a little bit about like having to kind of cover people, like just maybe like talking for them or behind their shoulder a bit, like telling them what to do if you know that they may not be going over like a certain thing correctly. Can't even talk right now. But basically, Mike, what were some of the challenges kind of being a coach at like a higher profile event? Like you guys were dressed up nice, you guys were on main stage with the bright lights. Just tell me kind of what was that like? Was there any unexpected challenges and anything that you found yourself having to overcome?
The level of anxiety and tension and emotion that happens to the players was probably the intense part. There was a lot of errors that I wouldn't ever see online from a lot of the guys, and this is not knocking them, by the way. We won after all. We didn't drop a game, but they could have won more dominantly in certain games and certain opponents. But there was that element of like, oh shoot, everybody's watching us. So it was about keeping them focused more than anything. There are like little things that I've seen plenty of times that happen at tournaments where it's like you can over communicate and flood the comms, or you can be playing and get this like tunnel vision. I think everybody's done that.
Yeah.
Where they're playing and they're like really focusing and they just go mute for no reason, or they just start making stupid plays. And I like to call it being a hero. So you'll see it a lot, and I see it all the time in HCS. I see it in Counter-Strike. You don't see it as much actually because they're so grilled, but there's a lot of like shooters where this happens, where people feel like they got to go for the clip. They got to be the hero to save the team, you know what I mean? When that's not the case. It's like sometimes the better play is just to stay alive. Just to be a nuisance. Like that's you being the hero. But
yeah,
other
just
times
being a
it's
rat,
like,
just being your best pistola wizard, just staying alive and giving them to focus on you.
That is quite literally what I told the guys multiple times. I was like, let them make the error. Be a rat. Do not die. It's that simple. But sometimes it's like, it's not that simple because there are extra elements that happen to people. I play on vibe, right? Matt plays on vibe. I'm not sure. I don't think Con or Stormy do. But the point is like, no, Matt plays. Yeah, I don't know about Havoc, Con, but it doesn't matter. It's like there's an element of when the intensity is on you, the spotlight is shining in your eyes. Your senses, like your other senses, become more secondary. So like you might not actually feel the vibe happen. You know what I mean? It's like an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
So it's coaching a live event is more about keeping them engaged than it is doing anything else. Keeping them focused on task, really.
I know Khan mentioned a little bit about they had some struggles with real ones, Defense Frickin', Gumby and them. and that was kind of their wake-up call in winners round 2 that they had to play a little bit better. It's interesting to hear you say that they made some mistakes and they could have won even more dominant, because from our point of view, it looked pretty dominant. Not gonna lie, it looked pretty solid. And I guess you're gonna see mistakes more so than anyone else because you have all that watch time, all that POV VOD time.
Yeah, I know which event in particular, like what he's talking about. Against Real Ones, we had a situation, I think it was Beaver Slayer. I was trying to call out the overshield, but we were overcomming to the point that it was flooding the comms. I couldn't be heard. The microphone in particular was having technical difficulties. Like, they couldn't really hear me. My voice was quieter than theirs.
Okay.
For example, Matt Gunshot's voice would cut out for me if he had his like headset positioned in a certain way. So there were like miniature technical difficulties, but it is what it is. And it's like Havoc has kind of a hothead, and he was like, "What? You got to call that stuff out. You got to call out the overshield coming." And it's like, "Well, I did." And he goes, "You got to call it out louder." It's like, I'm not gonna spend the rest of the time arguing with him to tell him like, "No, I did call it out." It's like, yeah, whatever. We'll take the L here and move on. And then the next round, it's like, okay, we're more locked in. And that stuff never happened again. My voice was like twice as loud because I now knew that he couldn't hear me or they couldn't hear me that well. So there's like pivots you have to make as well. That's what I'm saying. It's like just added extra crap that happens under the spotlight that is annoying. You're gonna have tech difficulties. I mean, you ever watch ACS? Their damn like tournaments basically collapse every time it's finals. Everybody crashes.
Yeah.
So how do you keep people mentally engaged? Like, that is a very difficult thing to do. You know.
Okay. A fair. Makes sense. I just think that's funny. Like, it's definitely a Havoc thing. It's like, dude, you also could know when the overshield's up, dude. Like, that information
Well,
isn't
it's not
necessarily limited to the coach.
That's true, sure, but it's also like he needs to be worrying about more things than that, because we had way more stuff going on than worrying about the overshield coming up every 60 seconds. Like we had it down to the point where we were trying to make our positions on the map, on every single map, control the spawn similar to how Halo CE works. You know, you can spawn trap like nobody's business in that game. A lot of people in Halo 2, they think it's random. It's not. It's not random. Like, we were able to figure out how to spawn trap people. He needed to pay attention to that. That's way more important than worrying about the OS time. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, why would you keep track of the OS time when you have a coach?
True, I totally understand, and no shade to Gavin. He's a proven champion. I can't wait to have him on the podcast soon. I'll have to ask him, do you remember this moment? I know a lot of people will do like, all right, you might be able to get a good spawn trap in blue, but a lot of teams don't like force that off the jump. Like, oh, we have snipe and BR and library. Now they can only spawn blue, or same thing in Creek. Like, if you have 4 people that are sitting, just like stationary, not jumping, not blocking those spawns, like they will spawn in blue every single time. Sank, we know you can get them in rocks pretty much every time, but we just don't see a whole lot of teams do it like 100% of the time. But it definitely is possible, and that you really could just keep them there until you run out of ammo, until you run out of ammo resources. And that's the thing, though. I feel like in Halo 2 you'll run out of resources a little bit, maybe more so than, I don't know, Halo 1. You'll see people just chilling on the top of Prisoner or Derelict, just because it only takes 3 shots to kill you.
Yep. Yeah, it's just a different type of game when you're trying to compare the two. But you're right. The good thing about like trying to keep track of these, like this map and this game type, is you have so many different areas where you can get ammo back. I think is the biggest thing. Specifically with like Lockout, you got to make sure that you keep the players on the lowest part of the map. There's less protection. You can keep them trapped. Everything up high here is like more ammo for you, grenades, and power weapons. Like, it's just one of those things where you got to be paying attention to the map and dissecting it more on a y-axis than an x-axis.
Yeah, the verticality is so important. That's what I refer to it as. I coach a little bit here and there. Like I've coached Guelo, some like Spanish speaking players. I coached Why Not before the level 50 event for a couple of hours, and a lot of things. A lot of the points I'll stress, or one of the points I'll stress a lot is fighting upwards. Like when you spawn in this game, you have to get up. You have to look up, shoot them as you're jumping up. Like you can't fight people from down low. They're gonna kill you, or they're gonna get away, and you'll be stuck weak. You have to use the spawn protection to like immediately get up with your teammate. That's what separates good players from bad players, because it's only this game that has the spawn protection. Even though it's not very long, it's still pretty useful. You don't get that in Halo 1 or Halo 3. You can't just get black screened. Like you can't just not play the game if someone's really fucking cracked and they know what they're doing. In this game, you do have that chance. Like if you and a buddy spawn, you can jump on each other's head or lift up, do something. Well, I'll tell like Wello, I'm like, you're shooting down, you're fighting from a low position. You can never have won this battle. All you can do is use your ammo, your grenades, and then you're spawning your teammates in BR1 or wherever your low position that you fought for. You should have just died. You'll hear this a lot in Halo 1. Your teammate will just be like, die. Please die. Do not spawn me in red shit. Do not spawn me in red tombs. Like, I don't care how many times you do it, but you have to die to get me a random spawn, because otherwise we just lose the game. We lose the game and it won't even be close. Let's see. Next question. Mike, who do you think is cheating in the Halo scene?
Well, I put together a wall of sus that I had for the longest time.
You did put together a wall of sus, and I commented on the wall of sus. I commented on Twitter, and I shouldn't have done this. I should really be spending my day doing better things other than doom scrolling on the app and just talking shit about Halo. But alas, this is what I've chosen to do with my time. And we got some flack. We got some flack for accusing some players of cheating, and I don't know how you came up with the list, but please elaborate, explain.
So there's a good handful. I made a list early, like Halo Infinite. Sort of early. It was like I had a list growing for a while of people that I just thought were suspect, right? I didn't want to outright accuse them. Then I started seeing more and more like clips come out that are irrefutable. I'm like, oh, you're like using a Cronus or Zim or something that's some type of attachment or any type of advantage like that, or you're just straight up cheating. So there were a few, and it was interesting that the Halo 3 community has a lot of them, right? Right off the bat, Monster just got busted for Halo Infinite.
Yeah, that one's kind of like for real. The Monster one was big.
Yeah.
Like all of him and his main account and like all his Smurfs got banned, or we saw it on, what was it, like Leafly or something?
Yes.
Leaf app.
Yeah, his stuff got banned. Abature was on the list. Tylenol was on the list. Those two guys, it was Abature and Too Nice. They like changed accounts, and Too Nice.
Yeah, then the Honda Cup 1v1 tournament. I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, that is just ridiculous. There's a lot of people cheating just in esports in general. It's honestly one of the reasons why I kind of stopped competing, because, like, stop being a player. I can't handle that kind of crap, really. I know of plenty of people in the Halo 3 community that use advantages and edges, like using a VPN, that use network manipulation. They'll use a Cronus and a Zim and think it's okay and it's completely acceptable. There are certain people that think using DS4 Windows is unacceptable because you can manipulate that program and get advantages from it as well. So it's like, where do you draw the line? Is kind of where I'm at. But the big ones are like the ones that people already saw that are banned from tournament play.
Yeah.
There's a good handful of them. Like, a lot of the ones that I had on the wall assist, they were confirmed.
I was surprised to see Synox on there. Because it felt like in year one, he was accusing a new player of cheating every day, and it could have been true. It's honestly gotten in my head a little bit now too. When I play MCC, I'm like, I'll play ranked just to do weekly challenges. I'm like, is this guy using some kind of unfair advantage? It's hard to tell like what's sus and what's real. So many of these players have never been to a LAN. I tell them all the time in their comments. I'm like, just show the fuck up, bro. Like we've had 20 plus years of events for your favorite Halo game in whatever fucking country you live, right? Like there's been LANs for
Never
OG,
shows.
for MCC. We've had side tournaments. Like I used to lament not having classic Halo LANs. Well, now it's been like almost 10 years and we've had like dozens. We've had like smaller ones like the regional stuff like at PAX East and PAX West. If you haven't done anything on LAN and literally you haven't shown up and beaten a single team, beaten a single player, but you're the absolutely nicest player online in every online draft tournament, it just feels sus. It feels very, very sus. I've seen people just do fucked up things like now you can get like monitors that do the wall hacks for you, like nothing in your PC. It's just like a monitor that has like player outlines, and I guess it's just only gonna get worse, and that's why we need to land more. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me build a bridge for you before you go off the deep end. So I pretty much keep track of a holy crap ton of tech stuff, specifically in gaming, just because I'm always trying to learn something, right? One of the things that's going to be good, it's going to be very weird, but it's going to be good. The use of AI is already being implemented into finding cheaters. So people that use aimbot and they use these Cronus in Zim to get the extra like aim assist, the extra computer added assist is what I like to call it. Beyond what's built into the game for controller users, right? They're getting noticed and profiled by AI companies. There are people literally making a business off of generating AI that will monitor the way your accuracy is, the way your shooting is, because there are certain people that play MCC and Halo 3, Tylenol being one of them. I'm very much convinced he's cheating.
Gunshot convinced me. He convinced me first.
Cheating.
Go ahead.
Yeah, was cheating. I don't think he is anymore, believe it or not. I've watched some of his stuff. He's not nearly as good as he was 3 years ago during the height of the pandemic. And I'll die on that hill.
When all those online tournaments were happening, like all that, like that 25K Xbox Fan Fest one, that him and Trippy won.
Yeah, exactly. The auto lock that happens with like aimbot or the insta shooting when your reticle turns red, they can profile that using AI. And if you're super precise constantly, you're automatically going to get flagged and kicked out. Like they're already testing this out in Activision Blizzard games, Riot games. Like this is going to happen. And it's interesting because it's going to be AI versus AI because a lot of aimbot programs is AI generated. It's gonna be interesting. I don't think cheating is gonna last forever. I think it will definitely be around for a while. But for now, we need to get rid of online tournaments for money, just in general. It's just.
I like that idea. I think online tournaments, we do this a bit in Smash, should really be used to fund those players that financially have difficulty traveling. The younger players that are cracked, that we want to get to tournaments, or the international players. Like in Melee, we do a lot of crowdfunding for players from Europe, Australia, New Zealand, because like we know they're cracked in their local scene, and that's where a lot of our resources will go to. I agree 100% with that. Like online tournaments for money are just just unnecessary. We could use that to have more lands. How do we get more people to lands? How do we get more people? We had 38 teams in Vegas, pretty much 40, but not quite there. How do we get more people to land in general? Like what do we need to do as adults, as men in our 30s to make this happen more? Because I feel like with more lands there are less cheaters. I feel like when we had those Microsoft 2v2 store tournaments before the pandemic, that was a really great thing for our scene, at least in North America. But as soon as the pandemic happened, all those stores closed down, and then we had Halo Infinite, and it had no anti-cheat, and hundreds of people were cheating. How do we get more people to lands, Mike?
Okay, so it's not a developer issue, for sure. So it's not Microsoft's end. Nintendo issue. I mean, the Smash community is thriving, and they don't have any support. They have negative support from Nintendo.
Yep.
So it's not a developer issue, it's a community issue. There's not enough community members in general, in the Halo sphere specifically, but this isn't a lot of games. There's not enough casual players playing the game that there needs to be, and the LANs are not inviting to casual players. It's very rare that you go to any type of tournament or esports event LAN that is for casual players. There's nothing really for them to do other than to spectate and buy merch. And I find that a crime, because at the end of the day, it should be an event for people to celebrate their joy of the game with a side tournament there for the best of the game. The tournament should be the side project at the LAN. It should be more about, like, you should be having cosplay. You should be having the artists that generated the models up there talking about what inspired them. You know what I mean? You should be having, like, food events even. It's all, like, video games in general is a form of art and expression, and the moment you ignore that is the moment nobody cares. Like, you're gonna make bad games. I see it all the time. Plenty of games that you play and you're like, oh, this is super fun, but why don't I care? It's like, because there's no passion, there's no art, there's no expression. Like, you need to have that. So I think for LANs in particular, to get people involved, you need to bring back the love of the game first. Like, there's so many people that play comp Halo, and it's a small minority of people that actually play Halo are competitive players.
Yeah.
And all they know about is comp. They've never played the story. They don't know what the Flood is. They don't know who Cortana is.
Yeah, we were
like,
talking
they
about
know,
this,
but they don't know.
I was talking about this with my lady the other day. I'm like, babe, you realize, like, most of the people you watch on Twitch, they've never even clicked on the campaign. Like, they've never considered it because they're multiplayer oriented. They're playing, you know, maybe sports games or fighting games or more PvP stuff. Like, and then on the flip side, you have people that have, like, probably never really clicked multiplayer. Like, maybe they do from time to time, but they really just play single player and they're not really interested in multiplayer at all. It's a novelty for them. I think
Exactly.
do you remember the Outpost Discovery events they did a couple years ago? It was before the pandemic. They had them in a few cities. I think they need to bring that back with the HCS lands and do what you're saying and make them into one thing. Like, make it like a big event, and the tournament just happens to be there. Like, the same exact format that we have for the tournament now, but, like, it has to be, like, you definitely have to appeal to, like, casuals. I think families first, because Halo's really old now. And I think the Outpost Discovery events they did, like, really brought that crowd in. And they may have even had little side tournaments at those events too. I think they do a little bit of what you're saying at Seattle at Worlds. They have, like, dev panels and cosplay contests and a lot of stuff going on. But that is only Worlds where they do that. That is only in Seattle once a year where they have that effort, and you can watch, like, 6 streams at once. You got the 4 main ones, LVT stream. You got, like, all the, like, the Xbox ones going to, like, they could do so much more, you know, if they had the staff and resources. I think that's if they brought back the Microsoft stores, if they merged the HCS and those kind of Outpost Discovery events they were doing, you would have a lot more interest and just get more younger people into Halo. And ultimately, most beneficially for us, less cheaters. Mike, do you have any favorite montages? Side question, have you seen any of mine?
Ooh, I have not. So, I've not seen any of your montages. I would like to watch them. Montages for me, I never really got that into. I told you, like, I was super big into the glitching montages, so people trying to achieve things that have never been achieved before. I watch Gunshots all the time. I mean, he gives me the shout at the end, and he filmed those forever. I think probably, though, one of my favorites, it has to be Walshy's, I think. But at the same time, I really liked Read 18's stick montages when those first came out.
Yeah.
Those I thought that was really cool because it was like I said, it's an expression, right? You're doing something never really been done. I thought it was really cool. So, do I make an appearance in your montages, by chance? Am I getting smoked?
No, probably as like a teammate and maybe a clip or two. I know I clipped a couple of things from like the setting baseline draft league we did. So maybe like as a teammate, I'll send you some after this. I'll send you a couple of the better ones, the more watchable ones. I've been making them for a while, so the ones I made in 2008 are definitely not the same kind of quality from maybe when I was like really editing in 2018. But yeah, I like making videos from time to time, just like a way to add more creativity to the expression. Like I spent a lot of time on before the like MLG Pro forums and Game Battles forums. I was an H2F kid. I was posting and reading a lot on the Halo 2 forums. So I remember like when Gunshot posted his video. I remember when like the contemporaries, because it wasn't just him. You had a lot of contemporaries around that time that were also making really good videos. Although yes, his was the best. His won the contest for that year, if I remember correctly, all the way back in like 2006 in the before time. So yeah, it's interesting. I asked Khan the same question. And he said, "I've never seen a montage," and then I was like, "Can you clarify?" I was like,
I believe that totally.
Can you clarify?" He's like, and he just repeated it, and my brain kind of broke for a few minutes. Like I didn't really know. Yeah.
That doesn't, believe it or not, that doesn't surprise me at all.
You know, after knowing him for a little bit, I've landed with him a couple of times. Yeah, it also doesn't surprise me. He's just like more of a real life dude. And, you know, watching videos about other dudes playing a video game just seems kind of weird. I don't know, man. There's probably better ways to spend your time, maybe. But it's really cool, like, just being, like, you know, when someone's like, oh, do you play Halo? And you're like, yeah, look, I can show you. Like, here is me, you know? Like, here's, you know, me playing the game. And it was just a way to, like, you know, before you had social media, it was like a credential thing. Like, oh, like your montage was kind of your resume. Like you put your best clips in it. You put, you know, who you're playing with and against.
That's true.
Because there was no Twitter or YouTube or Twitch, and besides like a signature, maybe a signature or something, a video of yourself, even if it was like a minute long, could do a lot for you, because it was, you know, the only way you can really show or tell other people about yourself. You know, everyone their uncle and older brother could type on the internet and say they're nasty at Halo, but it took a lot of courage to like record your clips with a Dazzle 90, because that's what you had to have. You had a Dazzle 90, and half the time the audio wouldn't work, so you like just had the clips, but you're like, oh my god, I had the clips. That's on a computer. Like, oh my god, it's and then you add a song or something, and then before you know it, you're creating art. You're creating, you're creating content from the artwork that you paid $60 for.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's move on. How do we get? I only have a couple more questions left, so we'll wrap it up here soon. But how do we get retirees back into the Halo scene and active again? We have a weird thing in. I feel like this is really just Halo, because I don't see this in Call of Duty. I don't see this in Marvel or Street Fighter. I don't see this in Smash, where people just disappear and then they're gone. And then we don't know if they're alive anymore. They just gotta leave, and you'll hear their name in passing. And it happens all the way from like the top competitors to just like people you went to school with who might have been nasty, and then they moved on, and then they just kind of forgot Halo existed. A lot of people I talk to in real life are like, Halo, they still make those? That's the majority of the reactions I get. They're like, oh yeah, I used to play that. Yeah, I used to be pretty decent, and they were actually pretty good, and they had maybe a couple of 50s or high ranks, and they genuinely don't really remember how high they got, because they moved on, they played sports, or they had a kid or got a girlfriend or something. How do you think we can get these kind of people, our retirees and competitive players, back into the scene and active participants, or just interested again?
So there are a couple things. In terms of the people who still game, there's a huge fan. Like it's weird. It's like if you look into all the major content creators and all the major like personalities that play video games, they all started with Halo.
Yes.
A couple of them, even if you think they're contradictory, they're super popular still. Is like Dr. Disrespect started with Halo 1 and 2. Asmongold, he said his favorite game of all time was Halo 2. And it's like predominantly people view them as like, okay, they're COD people, or they're COD for like Dr. Disrespect, or
I've heard the same thing from
Asmongold is
Nade
World of
Shot.
Warcraft.
I've heard the same thing from Nade Shot or Scump.
All
Or like
of them.
the biggest people in gaming are like, yeah, Halo was my favorite game, and they mean that shit. They genuinely are, mean it. They're
Oh,
not
yeah.
being
They
sarcastic.
still do. Yeah, they still do. That's the thing. It's like, it's not about bringing them back, really. It's about just making a good game, I think. Every game that 343 has made, and they're primarily the main creators now. I mean, they've had the IP further than anybody. They don't release the game finished. There's major bugs and things that were broken. The story's kind of busted. It's kind of ruined in a way. I don't want to be too negative because it's like the game where it is now is good, but to bring people back, you gotta pull on their like nostalgia strings a little bit, man. And Halo Infinite had a really good opportunity to do that. A lot of people came back that I hadn't seen in freaking years.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Like, dude, I saw one of my Halo 2 teammates, Dome Rocked, who played with he always played. He got, I think he even went like freaking pro in a Halo 4 or 5. Like I went to college and he went pro. Like I hadn't seen him in what felt like a decade. It's the HCS Raleigh event, and he goes, "Mike." I'm like, "Don't." Like, at that moment, I'm like,
Wow.
"What the hell?"
Wow.
Like I hadn't seen him in age. I should have got his number. I kind of regret not getting his number, but that's what I'm saying. It's like you can, the audience is there. I think people want another good game to come out. I think the problem is that all the Halo games are so different that you're gonna upset people and they're gonna find a way to be mad. So
Yeah.
maybe the best bet is to create a new game that's in the Halo universe. So you can have the Halo elements, but don't call it Halo. I don't know what that means, but you need to do something different.
Okay.
Like ODST was pretty sick, but it's a Halo 3 DLC. But it's an interesting part of the universe. You get to play as a Marine. That would have been really cool to implement into like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, like a battle royale. Imagine playing as an ODST, not a Spartan, not as an elite. Or you can play as an elite or any type of alien. Like there's something like 30 or 40 different freaking characters in this universe that is Halo, and you're only able to play as human now. And you can't even play as the Master Chief. You know what I mean? Like you can't play as the main character, bro. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like if I want to play as John 117, Master Chief from Halo, I need to go play Fortnite. That's ridiculous.
He looks good. He looks good at Fortnite. Not
He
gonna
looks
lie.
great. He looks great, but you see what I'm saying though? It's like, what is this alternate reality where we need to play as like our own individual Spartans? That I don't think that matters. I think there needs to be a comeback of the story. If you make a good story, people will come back. That's my honest opinion. If you make a good game, people will stay. That's where I'm at. We just haven't really seen it in a while. I unironically am the most optimistic I've been in Halo in a long time.
We got Halo
It
Studios now, a new team technically.
It's the same thing ever for them, but the key to me, because I always believe in the engineers and the developers, I think they were handicapping the engineers and developers by using the outdated Blam engine. They can call it slip space all they want. It's a broken Halo Blam engine. So if they can bring back Halo with Unreal Engine, they could really revitalize the franchise. I actually believe that one.
What kind of mechanics, like features and modes, would you like to see in the next Halo? I can't even say in a new Halo time. We know it's coming. Like they're gonna milk this shit like they milk Star Wars and everything else that we enjoy. It'll be called Halo until we die because it's popular and they know we'll buy it. I'm sure, like as much as people didn't like Halo Infinite, I'm sure that the store sold, just made a lot of money. But what kind of mechanics, features, and modes would you like to see in the next Halo title?
I want to see every single gun that's ever been introduced into Halo. in the game.
That's
I want to
crazy.
see every map.
Even the Forerunner shit, no one likes that.
All of them.
Oh, for the big team.
All
For big
of 'em.
team. Okay.
I don't think you understand. I want all the characters playable.
This is crazy.
No, hear me out, because if you're gonna make a Halo game, make a Halo Universe game. That's what you should call it, the Halo Universe.
Okay, I'm on board with that. Okay, like every gun, every vehicle, every map. Okay, just
Every character.
so no one can be upset. I like that as a starting base. Like as a baseline, no one can be angry at the release of this game. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just... You should do that. You should have every game type. Like, there are certain game types in each one of the Halo games that's phenomenal, man. It's absolutely crazy. It's like, Halo 5 Flood is pretty sick. Like, that Flood game type is pretty sick. Warzone's really nasty. Halo 4 Big Team Battle, we talked on earlier, is really good. There is elements to Invasion, I think is what it was called. Halo Reach, where you get to play as an elite. Like, one team is an elite, the rest of the teams are like Gen 1 or Gen 2 or whatever Spartans.
Agreed. I sweated hard in Invasion.
Yeah, you need to bring all of that in, and then give people the option to obviously bring Forge back in, but give people the option to mod the game. And imagine what opens up. Okay, picture this: you have a battle royale now where you can all play as ODST. You now have a role-playing game where you can play like space battles or something, and you can have different ranks within clans be similar to the Covenant. Like, the elites are the highest, and there's different levels of... Like, you can make it lore accurate by doing that. You can introduce an entirely new way to view Halo. There's just so much you could do, and it upsets me that nothing close to that happens. Ever. It's just the same game. Play as a Spartan. The story's kind of trash. We only care about competitive. And then you play comp. The comp is unbalanced, unfair, and the game's illegitimate online because of cheaters, or fundamentally the servers are trash. You know? It's just like, what are we doing, guys? Let's just make a good game. Make an everything game. That's my take.
I kind of would be on board with it. I do feel like there's just a lot of assets that don't get used. One of the things I really love to see from the modding MCC community will be like their backports or reports. The Rejected Shotgun, for example, will take like everything in Halo 4 and put it in Halo 3, and then like make it so you can play it in Forge or a custom game. Those are some of the best mods, are where they put things from other Halo games into, you know, different Halo games where you think they wouldn't belong, but it works. It's always like very tasteful. It's also like always very appropriate. I played a mod recently with the Halo Classic Hub that blew me away. I think it was also by Rejected Shotgun. It was like a big map, like a humongous map, like in atmosphere with spaceships, but it had like the short swords and the long swords, like the stuff from the cutscenes, and like other things that you can pilot, and you were able to like use the Scarab too. It was just like so fun, and I don't think Microsoft realizes how much of a gold mine they're really sitting on with basically like all these toys that people kind of want to play with, right? That's what they are, like toys, play environments, guns, characters, weapons, sandboxes, like maps. We just want to play with this shit with each other, and we'll pay money to do so, and we'll support it for life. But I do think, obviously, it's very difficult when the divorce happened between Bungie and Microsoft, when you had that separation between the people that created the work, that created the art, and the people that just own it. I don't think there was ever going to be a good path that didn't just involve a lot of mistakes and learning. Unfortunately, they made a lot of mistakes multiple times. But I feel like as soon as that happened, that tear, like we were kind of doomed. Like, there's no other like way. Like, you wouldn't take like an artist's music and be like, okay, we're gonna make the music now, you can go fuck off. Like, no, like the artist and the art are, to me, inseparable, and that's why 343's games just never felt like quality games that deserve to have Halo in their title.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of agree with that. There are certain elements of the game that are busted, in my opinion. Like, there are fundamental things within Halo 5, for example. Like, Halo 4 was probably too casual for most people's liking, but it also launched without enough, like, material in it, really. There's no ranking system. That's a pretty big deal. You need to keep people playing. The story was... I thought the story was actually pretty good, believe it or not. It was like a good relaunch, and I thought it was pretty cool. The over obsession with ranked and being a competitive shooter made no sense when there was no visible ranks in the game. There were like weapon upgrades that didn't make sense to me. There was a little bit of RP role-playing in there where you can play as like certain people. But the game just didn't feel balanced. I thought that was an issue. Halo 5, their fundamental issue was the aiming was wrong. Like, the aiming in a first-person shooter being busted, and still is when you play
heavy
on console. Oh yeah, like that. You can't have a broken FPS, you know. But going back to what you're saying about like Microsoft sitting on a gold mine, I think they're like limited with what Halo is. I think they only view it as a shooter. When Halo 2 came out, like Halo 1 was mostly a shooter, but the story was really captivating. It was very interesting. There's a huge twist. Finding out what the Flood is terrifying. It's a horror game.
Yeah.
But when you get like the campaign, like it was one of the first ones you could play split screen that kept people around. Halo 2 was kind of the first social media platform, man. You had the ability to do voice chats and play games with people. People used to make their statuses in game types and then leave their controller on.
Yeah, I remember eating dinner.
Yeah, and that's social media. That's really what that is, and it's OG. So that's like, I think they lost that fact. Halo 3 was just everything Halo 2 and Halo 1 did, but amplified. Halo Reach was a little bit like Bungie wanted to get out of the door, which they wanted to create something new. That's fine. But Microsoft not capitalizing on what Halo was, which was a social media platform, in a way. Social media platform with like shooters. It's one of the reasons why everybody knows each other still, from freaking 20 years ago. It's because you guys sat in the same stupid lobby, singing stupid songs and recording it and putting on YouTube before it was bought out by Google back in 2004.
Yep, we had pregame and postgame lobbies. I try to explain to people now because they just don't get it. I'm like, the Halo experience you have is just not correct. Like, you're supposed to be taught. It's supposed to be like a hyper social experience. You're supposed to like be meeting new people, making new friends, new enemies, getting new teammates, like hundreds of people like every week. Like, you're supposed to be meeting people from all over the globe at any time. It's supposed to make you like a more world. I think Halo makes you more worldly because it forced you to be on teams with people from other continents, and you had to work together if you wanted to fucking win. I'll learn a little bit of fucking German if that means this motherfucker will hear my callouts better. Like, I will learn your language for sure, buddy. And we just don't have that.
Learn to call us in Spanish now.
See, we don't have that. It's the Halo Infinite, and each Halo game successfully just felt like a much more sterile experience. When you remember it, it was the opposite. Like, you would sign online, and you would get like dozens of requests. Like, people would see you, and they're like, "Oh, MadMike, invite immediately to my custom."
Invite all.
Yeah, to my custom game. We need one for matchmaking, or we need one for customs, or I just want to show you this new glitch or super jump I found. Like, it was just so different. They really botched it. How do you feel about
crazy.
enough can't be said about it. How do you feel about the multiplayer remakes and remasters, such as CE Anniversary and Halo 2 Anniversary? I know you said you kind of enjoyed Halo 4 and Big Team Battle, but how do you feel about those two kind of remasters, like just the multiplayer versions of them specifically, if you've ever given them some time?
Oh yeah, I've given them plenty of time. I think so I was big into the campaigns. When it comes to the remastered, Halo CE desperately needed it. When you play the remastered version campaign, it's freaking awesome, dude. Same thing with Halo 2, it's phenomenal. In terms of like playing competitively or playing multiplayer, nah, it's not for me. I'm not interested. it just not fun. It's not the original to me. It's like, why are we doing this, guys? If we're gonna be playing the OG games, let's play the OG games. Let's not mess about, because you know how different Halo 2 is from version to version. Like Tart, which we're playing on now, isn't the same as MCC. MCC isn't the same as OG, and remastered is Halo 4. Like, what are we doing here? You know? So to me, I have no interest. In terms of multiplayer, no interest really, if I'm taking it seriously. But for campaigns and story mode, it's a much needed update, I think, and it's really good.
I agree. I always thought it was weird how you could do all of the button combos in the campaigns. Like if you play CE Anniversary, you could backpack reload, you could double melee, and there's not a bunch of times where you may want to do double melees, but like backpack reloading for sure is something that you're doing a lot, especially on Legendary or Lasso, and that was preserved. But then when you would play the Anniversary multiplayer, it was just Halo Reach, and a real tragic part about that was the maps were gorgeous. If you remember from 2011, the Certain Affinity remakes of like Prisoner, Damnation, they had a couple other ones, Hang 'em High. They redid Headlong as well from Halo 2. Like those remakes, I thought were gorgeous, and maybe it was just because it's in like the gritty Reach engine with a little bit of blur and just how it looks in that game. It was such a nice, refreshing breath air compared to all the gray that we were seeing in competitive. But then, and so I liked how those maps looked, at least, even if the pistol was wrong. You couldn't grenade weapons to yourselves. The power ups were all wrong. You couldn't nade those down to yourself. And Halo 2 multiplayer Anniversary, not only was it just Halo 4, which just felt gross, it felt outdated. It felt like a game that we should have had like 3 years prior. But it also just looked awful. Like, I hate looking at Halo 2 Anniversary. It hurts my eyes. The backgrounds are disgusting. The geometry, the blocks, the maps, like everything just looks just awful, just gross. It makes me miss like Halo 4's Haven or Adrift or even Abandon, because I feel like those maps had a little bit more uniformity and a little bit more of just like the vision, the creator's vision kind of met, like kind of seen through. All we only got like what, 3 or 7, like just a handful of those Anniversary maps, the Lockdown, Stone Town, Warlord, and and the Shrine. Like those maps just felt like someone had like like an outsourced job where someone that didn't really. Maybe they still had love for the maps and stuff, I don't know. And maybe they were just limited by the tools they had. But gosh, those are just the ugliest fucking maps in Halo. Like, I just hate that shit so much. I hate having to do those challenges. I can't wait till I'm finished and I never have to play that game again. I can't tell which I dislike worse, how it feels or how it looks. But I did like how those the Anniversary ones for Halo Reach or for CE look. Those were kind of charming. We're kind of at the end here, Mike. I'm kind of out of questions. The only other question I have for you is, are you working on anything right now? Is there anything that you would like to let people know that you're doing in gaming or in real life?
Mostly all of my free time, which is quite limited right now, is like I'm basically working my butt off at work right now. It seems to be the busiest season for us, which is weird because this usually happens in spring. It's gonna be a good year. Basically keeps me busy. But in terms of gaming, I do run a podcast, and I've been doing this for years now, and it comes out every Friday. It's called the M2 Podcast, and all we do is cover the week's like gaming industry related news.
Okay.
So if there is a new tablet that's coming out, a new game, if a couple of studios get axed, if we find out new information about like Grand Theft Auto, stuff like that, we talk about that, and it's like usually an hour to an hour and a half long. We just kind of yap, and been doing that for a while. I started it by myself during the pandemic, mostly as a way to improve my speaking, because I had like very bad reading and like speaking at the same time, especially in front of people. So it was a way for me to like get better. That I always try to challenge myself with something new. And it's just something I've done for a long time. And then one of my buddies was like, "Hey, I want to do a podcast." I was like, "Why don't you come on the one that I'm doing now?" So that's mostly what I've been doing. Every Friday it comes out. We launch at 6 a.m. Eastern time, and it's basically your week gaming industry related news.
That's really cool, and you know, I feel like I could have maybe guessed that you've been on podcasts before, just because you are, to me, well spoken compared to other people in our community. I feel like you're much more well spoken than myself or others, and I just thought that's how you talked, honestly. But it's good to know that you
It's
like,
literally because I taught myself.
yeah, that's awesome. I just thought you were just bored with like a voice for radio or
Nah,
something, but
dude.
no, that's really cool.
No,
And
in fact, man, when I was born, they actually thought I had to go in the special classes so that I could get better at public speaking. They thought I was a mute because I was pretty quiet. I didn't talk much, and I always mispronounced things. Like personal stuff, like interesting stuff, probably, sort of. My mother has a very thick, like Southern accent. She's
okay,
from Alabama.
gotcha.
My cousins are from Louisiana, and my dad is English, and I grew up in the North. So I think because of those three different like dialects I was dealing with when I was growing up, I have like mannerisms that sometimes come off Southern, and then other ones where it comes off English, and it's freaking difficult, man. So I think that's one of the reasons why I always was nervous about reading in front of people, and that was just one of my goals is like focus on presentation and public speaking to get better. That's like the whole reason why I did podcasting in the first place.
And you said it was called
No
the
one
DMT podcast?
M2, so MadMike is what I started with.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, M2 space podcast, and we're on every single platform.
Well, please link me. I would love to take
Yeah,
a
sure.
listen. I also follow like just gaming news. I just keep up with layoffs, news, and such. So I would definitely tune in and love to hear you talk about it. That's really awesome. Um,
Yeah, man.
that's kind of it. That's pretty much all the questions I had. I appreciate you taking the time to come on.